Well, hello there, and welcome to Mike Check with Mike Shaw, episode number 7 of the podcast. It's a Wednesday, September 19th. As you know, flash flood watch in effect until 11 o'clock tonight. Already an early round of showers moving through the area. The airport's already picked up 2 100s, so already not going to get skunked. And again, a chance for showers and storms with locally heavy rainfall into the overnight hours, even possibly. We've already seen some very heavy rain just west of town, west side of Marana, and expect for more of that kind of activity to actually increase as we get into the afternoon hours. So, as always, please enjoy Monsoon 2018 responsibly. All right, let's get to our guest. He's been on the show before, and welcome back, Peter Murphy, Vice President of Invest in Education Coalition. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Michael. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, school choice, anything we can do for education and invest in education and invest in our future. These are all good things, and I know that you guys work hard to do just that. Let's get into this this thing that you're working on, the USA Workforce Tax Credit Act. Really important now because the economy is doing so well that we have more people looking for work than there are jobs available.
Actually, we have more jobs available than there are people looking for work.
It's the opposite.
I think you said it backwards.
I did say
right?
I said it backwards, but I guess some industries especially they have jobs that they need to fill, but they don't have the skilled workers to do them.
That's exactly right, and it's a very recent phenomenon. This is not what you and I have been accustomed to over the years, so it's an easy thing to misstate, and it's a unique problem, but it is a problem, and we've got to address it. And the federal government is key to addressing this in really a couple of ways. One of which they've started to do, and that is they've updated what's called the Career and Technical Education Perkins Act, Carl D. Perkins Act. They reauthorized that last fall. They provided more money for CTE programs in every state in the country. The federal government has a lot of job training programs. There's been a lot of criticism of those, that they don't really meet the kinds of skills and keep up with the technology that the workplace uses today. So what we're backing, Mike, is a bill that's supported by, or that's sponsored by, Congressman Lloyd Smucker of Pennsylvania, who himself was a former ran his family construction business, brought long-time, business savvy to Congress. He's sponsoring this bill with over 40 co-sponsors now that would provide tax credits, the economic incentive for companies and individuals to invest in a skilled workforce, invest in more apprenticeships, get the private sector more directly involved in putting their money into these things, which, studies have shown that they've been reluctant to do that. They don't get the return on investment. So we need more of this kind of activity. To do this and have partnerships with community colleges, we've got to do more of that. We've got to create the incentives on the ground where more companies are going to step up and do this sort of thing and get workers the skills they need at a much quicker pace so these jobs get filled as our economy expands.
Yeah, this is a huge issue here in southern Arizona after the construction industry just sort of bust after the housing bubble burst.
Right.
We had real problems, but now we're seeing a rebound. And we've talked to Southern Arizona Home Builders Association, who point to specifically, we are looking for people to work in our industry, and we just don't have enough skilled labor. Right now we have a lot of sheetrockers that are in their 50s, but we need younger people in there working.
There's a lot of sectors like that. Crane operators is another example. Welders. The average age of these workers are 50 and up.
Yeah.
And they're going to be retiring, more and more each day. And so, the last census numbers I saw had more than 250,000 construction jobs unfilled, almost 500,000 manufacturing jobs. We thought manufacturing jobs were disappearing, and certainly there are fewer than there was a decade or 2 decades ago, but there's more than enough available still, and they're going unfilled. So clearly there's a skills gap. We've got to close the skills gap. We've got to do it by multiple means, and this bill is an important way to do that, along with getting more children in better school situations, having choices at K-12 education so they can be in schools that are going to better prepare them for skilled labor. Because these are middle-class jobs. These are jobs where you can, live the American dream, and they are jobs that you can go to at a young age, in your late teens, early 20s even, make good money and not sit on a six-figure college debt.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely true. You think about plumbers, you think about mechanics, you think about these trade jobs, the manufacturing that you talked about. They all have good benefits. They all have very good pay. And you don't need a college degree to get into them. But what you do need is a chance to be an apprentice somewhere, or a program like what we have in the state of Arizona, the JTED program that does these kinds of training. And I know that they would love to have more resources. They're partnering with our local community college on job training, and it sounds like this USA Workforce Tax Credit Act would be just the thing to pump even more money into the programs that they've already started.
Well, we've talked to industry people who back this legislation, and more they're getting involved at the high school level. They're getting involved in career days and college days where colleges send representatives, college fairs, things like that, because really they need to get the word out about what's available to young people. If young people just go on this graduate high school, go to college thing, look, that's fine for probably most young people to do that, okay? But you don't have to look outside, oftentimes your own family to see that not every child's the same. College is not for everyone, and it behooves young people to get on a apprenticeship track or skills training opportunity that we're trying to create more of with this legislation, because that's going to be the key to them having gainful employment and having lifelong skills that are going to put food on the table and pay the mortgage and put your kids through school.
Absolutely. You need to do all that stuff. Now, I'm on the website usaworkforce.org, and people can go there and find out all the details on how this would work, assuming that it passes. And how would it work?
Well, could also, Mike, they could also get on that website, see there's nearly 300 groups in favor of this bill.
Right.
And also contact their member of Congress. I think that's the important thing right now. People should reach out to their members of Congress, get them on this bill, get them to pass this bill to address this problem.
Yeah, you would think it would be a no-brainer, but I know that sometimes there's partisan politics in play, and it's always good that the voice of the people be known, and you make it easy from this website for people to do that. You can sign up for an email newsletter, and of course you can get a hold of your local congressperson to make sure that they're aware of this and that you support it and that they should as well. Now, when this passes, how's it going to work? My understanding is, as an individual and as corporations, we're able to give to our local nonprofits, or how does that work?
So the Treasury Department would have to set up an application process, because the tax credits have a ceiling on them. $1 billion for workforce development and apprenticeships, and $1 billion for K-12 scholarships. So you, in effect, have to get a process by which you would apply for whatever tax credits, whatever investment you're going to make in an eligible entity that the bill spells out, and you would get them on a first come first served basis. You couldn't take more than $250,000 worth, and so that process would be set up. And then once you are notified that yes, you may have these tax credits, then you make your investment accordingly. So and then you file, of course, when you file your corporate or income tax returns, that's when the tax credits would actually kick in. But so it's a little, a lot of states have this kind of thing for specific tax credit programs, because again, there has to be a ceiling on them. Otherwise, basically everybody would be doing it, and the federal government wouldn't have any revenue.
Right,
so
right.
there is some ceiling effect that's necessary here. But beyond that administration of the program, companies would then be stepping up, investing in areas of need, establishing these partnerships. There would just be a much higher volume, right? If you make it economically worthwhile using the tax code like this, we've seen it over and over again. I mean, our economy right now is the result of the tax incentives that were put in place that spurred investment and growth and job creation. We're seeing the fruits of that now, but we need it really focused in this particular area because there's just too many Americans that lack the skills to fill jobs that are going begging right now.
Right. And as you know, Arizona is one of those success stories in the area of education, also the working poor, also with foster children. We have those sorts of tax credits here in the state of Arizona. It only makes sense that the success we've had here would go nationwide. And here is a chance for individuals and especially corporations to get a tax credit so they win, but it also puts money into educating kids for the jobs that they need filled.
Look, the states have been a laboratory of success. Arizona is clearly one of these. There's, your state's success has modeled this legislation, has influenced the crafting of this bill to bring it nationwide. And so, and again, it's not breaking the bank. I mean, it's $1 billion on each side of this with the workforce development. And if, as we suspect, it'll be proven to work, it can be expanded even further. But we can't let nearly 7 million jobs go unfilled and expect that our economy is going to be able to continue to grow. We've got to find the workers to fill these jobs, or companies are going to relocate overseas and find workers somewhere else.
Yeah, well,
can't let that happen.
And we have houses to build here in southern Arizona, and we need people to build them.
Here.
Right. And I might need a good mechanic for my Fiat 500. You never know. It could come up. So go to usaworkforce.org, find out much more about this. But the most important thing, two action items, is to get on the email address, on the email newsletter, so you stay informed, and then also to contact your local congressperson to get them aware and to let them know that you support it. Now, I want to run something else by you that's happening here in the state of Arizona. I don't know how closely you may or may not be following this, but it's kind of a bummer. Proposition 305 is set to be on our November ballot, and they've done a really tricky thing here. So right now, Senate Bill 1431 in Arizona passed, which over time is expanding our empowerment scholarship accounts, allowing more and more parents to take advantage of getting $5,000 a year that they can apply any way they want to their child's education. A really good thing for school choice. Now, what this group has done has got enough signatures to put it on the ballot, and basically a yes vote will continue the expansion of the empowerment scholarship accounts. A no vote would get rid of them. And so they've kind of flipped the way you would normally vote. It's very tricky, and we just need to get the word out so people can vote yes, so we can keep our ESAs expanding here in the state of Arizona.
Statewide referendum on education reform has always been a difficult undertaking because the teacher unions have huge amounts of money through forced collecting dues. There's no level they won't stoop at demagoguery and misinformation, and they do a very good job of scaring people into thinking that a child's advantage in an education reform, whether it's charter schools, education savings accounts, vouchers, or whatever it is, whatever vehicle is used to bring educational opportunity to children, that somehow the existence of that would take from another child's kind of traditional district school education. They paint it as a zero-sum game. if we let this happen or if we let this continue, it's going to take from your child, it's going to take away from you. That's completely bogus. It's totally false. But they've been very effective in state after state in convincing otherwise congenial people, of a falsehood. So that's going to be the challenge in Arizona. Can you overcome that kind of historical trend where education reform just doesn't do well statewide? I mean, that's why, I'm always a little skeptical of statewide referenda because, sometimes the legislature, as frustrating as they can be, legislators and, they don't do things quickly enough or they don't, they always manage to get something wrong. But legislatures can actually be a thoughtful process by which we get good laws passed that help a segment of children, like education reforms. And so, look, I wish you the best on that.
Yeah.
And I hope it prevails. I hope the ESAs, which is a wonderful idea and will do a lot of good, has done a lot of good. I hope they'll continue. Look, when the people need to understand, when the teacher unions fund something, it's about adults. It's about them. It's not about kids. Teacher unions exist to help adults. They're representing the interests of adults who work in the system. They're not representing the interests of children, ever. Okay, now, it doesn't mean that teachers don't care about kids. I'm not making that statement. I'm saying something entirely different. Of course teachers care about children. Teachers are in the profession to educate children, and they care and have love for them. But the teacher unions, the leaders, okay, that the union organization is all about the interests of adults and the empowerment of the union. It's not about kids. It's not about what's best for them. It's not about their welfare. And people just need to understand that very, very important distinction. It's not casting aspersion on teachers, but their unions they are very nasty political players in state after state. I've experienced this, very close up front. And so Arizona, reformers have a challenge in Arizona, and I hope justice prevails here.
Yeah, I do too. And it, to underscore your point about how sneaky they are, for them to put this on the ballot to make it a yes vote to keep ESAs, and most people, when they see a ballot measure, they automatically want to vote no if they don't want it to happen. And what they've done is reverse the script so that people are going to vote no, thinking that they're going to vote, thinking that, okay, this wants to get rid of ESAs, I'm going to vote no because I want to keep them. And basically what they're doing is voting no to get rid of ESAs, and it's just insidious. And it's, before, as you point out, we would have an uphill battle of educating people. Now we have a double uphill battle to do that.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I hope that people get informed and understand it and do the right thing. What do you think about just overall the Red for Ed movement across the country? It sounds like a really good thing on the surface, but then when you scratch the surface, we've had some problems here in Arizona where one of the leaders was actually speaking at a socialist event in Chicago. A lot of these leaders are not who we think they are. They're not necessarily your rank and file teachers who, just love the profession. It's more about what you talked about earlier.
Teacher unions are very political animals. They're very involved in the political process, and that's about working legislatures, throwing money around, and trying to build their power and the resources that are available for their members, for their teacher members. Now, there's nothing. Look, everybody has the right to lobby and to advocate for their interests, but they are the modern day robber barons of the late 1800s. They wield a lot of money and disproportionate influence, and they're ultimately a fairly narrow interest because they're not interested, for instance, in sound teacher evaluation systems. They're not interested in poor families having better schooling options outside of of a low-performing or dangerous district school. They're not for any of those things. They're for no accountability in the system. They're for making it impossible to fire a bad teacher. Well, those positions that they've held are not in the best interest of children or taxpayers. And so that becomes a problem, because it's very difficult to counter the resources and the political influence that teacher unions wield. And that's why they prevail so often and get their way.
Right, because because who's against teachers? It's impossible to be against
teachers. Of course, no one.
Right?
I mean,
right?
Exactly, and everybody knows a teacher, and people love their teachers. And
exactly right.
I can list every teacher I had, in K through 6. I could tell you their names. Many decades later.
Yep.
There's great affection for teachers, and there should be. So again, we always have the challenge of making that distinction between great teachers and enabling them to do their job. And by the way, Mike, I can tell you this whole Common Core debate that was hot and heavy for a while.
Yeah.
The teachers were backing Common Core. The teacher unions backed Common Core. And when it blew up in their faces and parents rebelled all over the country, what did the teacher unions do? Well, they used the parents to oppose Common Core, never owning up to the fact that they were part of the reason it came into in existence. They were backing all of that stuff. So they could be very nefarious in that regard.
Yeah.
Common Core they were as much responsible for that fiasco, and they acted like they're the ones that were opposed to it all along. It's just not true.
Right. So again, we have to be really mindful, really careful with Proposition 305. It's going to be on your November ballot in Arizona. And if you want to keep ESAs and you want to keep them expanding, you have to vote yes, as counterintuitive as that might seem. Now, if you want to help the rest of the country do what we've done here in Arizona and help Arizona even more, go to usaworkforce.org and find out more about the USA Workforce Tax Credit Act. Get on the email list and let your congressperson know how you feel.
And Mike, that bill number for the USA Workforce Tax Credit Act is HR 5153. HR 5153.
Very good. And it's all at usaworkforce.org. Peter Murphy, Vice President, Invest in Education Coalition. Always a pleasure. Thank you, and keep up the good fight.
Michael, thanks so much for having me. Great to talk to you.
Yeah, appreciate it. We'll do it again. We'll follow up. Thanks, Peter. Have a great day.
Bye-bye now.
All right. That's Peter Murphy, Vice President, Invest in Education Coalition, our guest. And he'd been on a couple of times back when we were on the radio, and here he is on the podcast. And that's one thing I'm really excited about the podcast is when we made the transition from the radio station to being a podcast, every guest that I've contacted during the transition, letting them know that this was happening, and since, every single one of them has agreed to continue to come on the show. And so we're going to continue to have the same guests that we always had. And we'll just drop them right here at miccheck.us, and that'll go out to all of the various podcasting platforms. And, of course, I record my my ugly mug for the YouTube channel as well. So that's another place to watch for it. And that link to the YouTube channel, you can find it at miccheck.us as well, mikecheck.us. All right, that will end episode number 7. Flash flood watch in effect until 11 o'clock tonight. We've already seen some heavy rain west of town. We're likely to see periods of rain throughout the day and into tonight, possibly with heavy rainfall as well. So if we do get some flooding, please just be extra careful. We want everyone to be safe even as we enjoy this rainfall. This is fantastic. All right, that's our show for today. Might be off tomorrow. I'm house sitting, of all things. So, or I may work on something today that will drop tomorrow. I haven't decided yet how that's going to work, but for sure we'll be back on Friday at the latest. Thanks again. Have a great day. May God's love ever be with you.